So Amanda, one of the things I don't do, and you'll see this, is I don't do a lot of kind of really pointing your directions at this point. I really want to see your finals develop on your own, but I really kind of want to kind of step in here and kind of talk about how to combine some images at this stage. So at this point, you have these backgrounds, and there's really not a whole lot. So at this point, this one you have a transparency, but this one there's nothing going on in the background here, and this one you've got some layering on the shapes, but again, that background's kind of empty. Here, you've got a little bit more going on in the background. So I want to talk about how you use these images to influence each other. So a couple ways to approach this. This is going to be a pretty standard approach initially. We're going to create a copy here. I always like to have a copy of what I'm working with. I'm going to leave this phalaenopsis. This appears to be a phalaenopsis. I don't know if this was a custom shape. If you made this, what kind of happened here? I am going to look at that before I grade it. Um, Remember, if you are using custom shapes, you do need to cite those. Uh, but beyond that, something like this, the details. This is going to be a big part where color strategies really get to be utilized a lot. But so what you could do with that? Let me turn continuous off. Is you could use this background black area, and let's just copy this whole section initially, and then let's turn continuous back off. Now that we have that, we can just copy the black. Let's paste that. So there's your black. Let's take let's take this whole image here. So back down to this layer, grabbing the whole thing here. Now there's a couple of different things we can do with it once we have it. Let's Control C, Control V. Let's bring it down here. And I do want to move it above initially. So let's drag it up to where we can see it. And I need to turn snap off. That's why it was kind of jagged movement. So there's snap off. And then we need to find our black layer. So let's move that above. And I'm going to turn the opacity down so I can kind of see what's going on with it, but I'm going to turn it back up later. And I want to make a selection of this area. So I'm going to select the negative space. I'm going to select inverse it. And then I'm going to go back to this background area that I had initially, turn the black off, and I'm going to lower the opacity of that once I make a selection of it. So let's lower the opacity here. And I want to turn the black back on, the black layer here. I'm going to up the opacity here. And what I want to do when I'm going to turn the other layers off, I want to basically use this as you had up here. It's just basically a transparent layer just to give a little bit of shape to the background. So let's go back here to our original shape, and that's this top right design. And we want to see how that looks with the black, which we want at 100%. And we're not seeing much. I lowered it a little too much there, so let's bring it back a little bit. And now we can start to lower that black layer. And we're going to need to put a white layer in here to see. So I'm going to do it initially on the transparency, just so I have something to, so I can see some of this without the other design elements. So I added my white layer in the middle now, and then let's go ahead and take a look at what that looks like with everything together. So maybe that's still a little too strong. So again, you can up the opacity of that black as much as you want, and that'll slowly take that shape away. But what it does is just give a little bit of that shape here, and you can cut out any parts of this that you wouldn't want. So I went back through and cut those shapes out so you could see your flowers again, and so that just added a little bit of that background. And what that is just that shape using transparency there, or changing opacity on layers, just to add that to the black background. And just to have some influence going on. Now, obviously, a little bit of a rough edge there on those, but that's just because this is a revision. But things to consider.